Okay, right. So thank you all for giving your time this evening to come and listen to where we are with the project. I'm Mehron Kirk from BDP, a landscape architect, and we've been having a team working on this project for some time now. So this evening, this is the pre-Part 8 presentation of what's going to be going out into Part 8 for planning, and this is an opportunity for us to describe, if you like, how we and tell you how we've got to where we've got to in terms of that design process, and to let you see firsthand where it is, and for you to make some comments. But if I can ask you all to mute until the end. It's only about 22 slides, so don't worry, it's not going to go on for too long. But if I can ask everyone to mute until the end, and then we'll welcome questions. So just in terms of this evening, I'm going to some of the information I've got is information I've had previously, because I realized there may be some new people on this evening. So I'll quickly go over the background to the project, talk a little bit about the comments that we received, and then go in and actually describe the proposed layout which we've come up with and what the next steps of the scheme actually are. So this has all come about. It's been in the past years, where the economic community and economic development plan was set in place, with one of the objectives to actually produce a detailed design proposals under the RRDF Category 2 public realm proposals. And this is exactly what Roscommon have employed us as designers to actually do. Just worth saying, our design brief was to look at the whole town centre and develop a design that corrects the balance between vehicular, pedestrian space, and looks at the function, make sure it's functional and comfortable for everyone that's out using it. So we're looking at movement, parking, vegetation, lighting, street furniture, events, and everything else which is important to making a successful town centre. So it's worth saying that this has all come about. These opportunities don't come about every day, and the only reason it's come about is because of the funding. So the RRDF, which is a national fund for the whole country, where local authorities can apply for money to actually get money for two different stages. The first one, the design stage, and on the satisfactory delivery of that, they can then award money for the projects to be built. So this is there are timetables, there's lots of criterias, and basically this is what we are trying to balance between the views of the community, the views of the requirements of designing public spaces, and what the funding guidelines actually will actually fund and what they'll not fund. So it's interesting because the RRDF did give back some feedback. So this is again the people that award the funds, which sit nationally. They basically came at when Roscommon went in for the first set of funding, and they talked about a lot about the how this is all about improving lots of different things to the town centres, looking at vacancy rates, promotion of the sense of place. And it's interesting, the bit in red is where they thought there was a degree of innovation with reimagining large spaces in the centre currently used for car parking to become a market area where people can trade and interact in an enhanced town centre with less congestion, better air quality, and safe pedestrian access. And it's interesting, they only thought at that stage it was only a degree of innovation, and we've got to better that if we want to actually get the funding for the next phase to actually build it. So interesting, down the road from you, current work funded by the URDF, which is the urban version of what we'll be going for, which is the rural version. So in Roscommon Town Centre, the works are ongoing. A very similar approach, a very similar an element in terms of the public realm about improving the pedestrian connectivity, comfort along the streets, new lighting, new everything from wall to wall. And that's actually going down really well. The local businesses are generally very happy, and it's actually something worth actually noting and actually looking at, because this is a very good parallel, albeit this is a larger town than what you've got in Ballaghaderreen. But it's good to see that the local funding national funding has and is working locally. So we've received lots of feedback. We've had dozens of Teams events over the last months, and we've had lots of email submissions as well, which is really good. I just thought I'd be very honest and say exactly what we've received. So we've received 43 emails, 13 have been negative, 10 have welcomed the design but have concerns, which is fair enough, and 20 are in full support. And we were quite pleased to see that there was that support out there, and we fully recognise that people have concerns. And what our job has been is trying to balance that. But just a few taken from the comments there, that there is a lot of positivity, and it's really nice to see that the actual town, a lot of people in the town see that there is a need to actually change with the times and actually to help the businesses, which is really important to make Ballaghaderreen a place where people want to do business and people want to live. So the site extent has changed a little bit, and this is what's going to be going in for the Part 8 application. So it is obviously the whole central area, all along Main Street, all the way down to the former courthouse, up Cathedral Street, Chapel Street, and then taking the bit in front of the Shambles, and then Pine Street further along than previous to actually to be addressing the junction at the top of that street as well, on the road itself. So that is the project boundary, if you like, for the purposes of the Part 8. So there was a number of elements that we looked at, and we put in place a vision, which is obviously all about enhancing the streets and places and spaces of Ballaghaderreen by reorganising roads, footpaths, parking opportunities, creating an environment that encourages people to dwell, explore, businesses to thrive. And that includes looking at access for all, cycle infrastructure, quality materials, street furniture, and adding more greenery. And we had then 6 objectives of how we then achieve that. One, putting people first. Second one, simplifying the streetscape to make it easier to walk around the town. Number 3, making it memorable, identifiable. 4, ensuring consistency in design and use of materials. So that's obviously linked to maintenance and the future of the town. 5, ensuring that it's all functioning well. And then 6, making it flexible and inclusive for multiple users and ages. And we realize that we do have all of those elements that we need to be considered within your town. So in terms of vehicle flow first and how the roads work, so we are retaining much as is, with the difference of we're introducing a mini roundabout right in the centre of the main square, and then we're making Cathedral Street and Chapel Street a one-way heading up out of the square and then back onto Market Street. We're also looking at making New Street one-way going in off Main Street. And I've got to say, a lot of these have been down for safety reasons. There's been lots of discussions. There's been lots of audits done to actually make sure everything is actually appropriate for today's world. But we're looking at obviously enhancing the centre area, enhancing the areas in front of the cathedral, enhancing the area down next to the end of Main Street, and then actually reorganising and formalising, if you like, the roads that are in between that. Introducing new lighting, new street trees, new planting, and actually generally trying to make the whole of the town actually something which everyone can be proud of, and it actually all fits together. Along with that, there's relocating the bus stops. There's looking at re-providing loading bays, re-providing disabled bays, making a lot of extra new crossing points. So therefore, the whole environment is a lot more comfortable and easier to use. So yeah, just looking at those elements in terms of the where crossings are, we've got 3 new crossings right in the very centre. We've got further crossings on Cathedral Street, also going up Pine Street and on Barrack Street, and then a number of crossings along Main Street. And this is all about trying to get a sequence and a rhythm of things happening. So therefore, we're lowering design speeds or traffic speeds by making the speeds come down, by actually putting in interventions, making it easier for pedestrians and cyclists to actually move through. So when we look at parking, so we realize parking has obviously been a source of many conversations. So basically this explains the parking. So the dark blue are existing parking spaces which are retained. We aren't planning to do anything with those, and it's due to the fact of the nature of the road, the width of the road. If we do something, we'll be making reductions. We don't want to be making reductions. So therefore, those areas are very much staying as they are today. The areas which are then light blue is what we're called the formalized on-street parking bays. So where the road gets wider, we can actually create proper bays. Likewise, within the core itself, we're creating proper bays, and on the first piece of Pine Street as well. So therefore, we're getting those parking spaces and trying to actually look at getting that right balance of as many as possible to help businesses and the functioning of the town, but also looking at safety in terms of visibility and crossing points. So there are a number of areas where we're actually going to be introducing 45-degree bays. And many of you will have heard the last time we spoke, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do that for safety grounds. And we're very pleased to say that the safety audit has actually said, yes, given that is something that's happening in the town at the moment, we can continue with that, which means that we maximize the amount of spaces that we can actually achieve. We're looking at loading bays. We're actually looked at having 3 loading bays within that central area. And also disabled bays. And we can look at, we've currently got 2 disabled bays to match what's there at the moment. It's something that we've always said we're keen to see if there's any others that are actually needed. And the other one is in that core area, we're very keen to be bringing in this time restricted parking, which therefore means that the long stay people that are using that core area are then displaced to other areas of the town. And we really want to try to improve usage of the Plots car park. And this is all about trying to get better turnover of spaces. We believe that if we create a good amount of spaces in the town centre, restrict them to 2 hours, for example, therefore we're going to get better turnover and more people being able to access businesses. So just to show you, and these are the revised drawings from last time, we've taken the liberty of creating our own yellow line for comparison purposes. So this is your existing town. There are 82, this is in the core area, there's 82 existing parking bays, 2 disabled and 2 loading bays. So what we're now proposing with our 45-degree parking is that we retain 45 parking bay spaces, 2 disabled and 3 loading bays. And you can see here the green are the parking spaces, the blue is the loading bays, and the purple are the disabled bays. Now, each one of these things have moved around a little bit, and most of that is due to the safety audit and visibility. The safety audit brought up a lot of the issues of having loading bays close to crossings or side roads, where they said that that is not acceptable and we have to move them away by a certain distance, which is what we've done. But in terms of parking, we're very pleased to have managed to maximize the amount of car parking spaces we can get within this core area. And obviously, as we've always said, there are lots of other car parking spaces which are only minutes walk from this area, which therefore won't have those restrictions on them. And just to put the 2 on top of each other, which we always like doing because it lets you see the difference. So we along the streets, you can see we are maximizing where we can. The green space is the existing, the red space, green space is the proposed, the red space is the existing, and the area which changes essentially is the square. And where that square is, we're obviously creating a multifunctional space which doesn't exist today, which we think is the jewel, if you like, of the town centre by creating usable pedestrian space for events, for markets, and to help the prosperity of the town. So this is the latest plan we have in a bit more graphic form. What we've done is we've actually looked at how this space works. We've actually retained now the oak tree, which sits in the middle of the space. We've made sure all the other trees are around the outside of the space. Therefore, the oak tree has very much pride of place. It sits close to the junction, as it does today, with our new mini roundabout. We have then some planting, which actually tries to give a buffer to the actual space itself. Some more planting and soft areas, but with paving that actually allows access from the shops, and a nice wide footpath to allow the shops to actually be very well accessible. And then we create some feature paving with radial lines that come out all based on the oak tree and how the oak tree helps to frame that space. As you can see here the mini roundabout. You can see the 3 crossing points. You can see all the parking spaces. We've actually moved the whole roads down towards this edge. Therefore, we create a 3-metre walkway in terms of the pedestrian footpath in all areas. And then the road and the parking base and the road sits adjacent to that, which therefore we then maximize the amount of space that we actually create in the square. and we create the opportunity to have greening, to have softening, and create a nice place where people would want to sit, and for things to actually happen. So this will, in our view, completely change the nature of your town centre. So we have a new artist impression. This is the artist impression. If you compare it to the last one, it is different. There are a lot less trees. We've lost all of the trees that are actually along the building, maybe bar two. We've still got the 3 crossings in. They've been moved very carefully for safety reasons and visibility reasons. There's the key oak tree in the middle. And then you can see we've got this really nice large public space, which then sits in a pride place in the centre of the town, which will create that animation, improve footfall, and with all the parking spaces which are then boundaring all the roads at every opportunity as possible. So again, just looking, if anyone's interested in the actual materials, we will be looking at proposing a granite paving, which is actually the light grey, which borders all the buildings. We want to make the buildings really set up. We want to lift the quality. We'll have asphalt on the roads. We'll have asphalt on all the car parking spaces. Then we have low-level planting, which is going to allow visibility over for all users. It'll also improve the biodiversity. We'll have street trees, which will all be have no branches in their lower areas. Therefore, again, you get good visibility across the spaces and towards the shops and businesses. We then have a feature paving that would actually then mark the actual square. What that actually ends up being is something that still can be debated and still be looked at as part of the project. So what I didn't want to do is to go into lots and lots of detail, but what I will say is that the Part 8 application, there are detailed plans at 1 to 200 scale, which is, as you can see, these are quite detailed, of every single part of the town centre that will be online for everyone to look at. Hopefully I've given a flavour of all the different, what's happening on the different areas, whether it be improvements to the end of Main Street, improvements in front of the cathedrals, what actually happens in terms of the formalisation of car parking spaces, where we're having to retain the existing, or where we're getting better things actually happening as part of that town centre as a whole. So the next steps is to achieve a consented Part 8. That is what we're trying to do. We need to still determine and submit then the RRDF funding package, which goes hand in hand with achieving that Part 8. So therefore, hopefully they all link together. We need to determine and seek other funding packages to deliver other components. And just as an example, and this isn't by any means set, the red line, sorry, it's a little bit faint on here, which is the Part 8 boundary, is larger than what we're going to be applying for in terms of funding. And that's purely down to economics and what's actually going to be able to be funded by the actual funding criteria. Other areas such as Pine Street, we fully appreciate. We've heard lots about speeds of vehicles and everything else. We have now designed those junctions, we designed those areas, and hopefully they will come forward as part of different funding packages that are actually out there to be sought. So that brings me to the end of their presentation. I hope this was informative. This was an overview. There are the other areas, lots of other areas in the town, and we do want everyone to go onto the website whenever these are actually uploaded. The aim is that everything goes live by the end of this week. This, if you like, is a pre-presentation for everyone to see what's actually going to be going up there. We're also going to be getting some posters in shop windows and the like. So therefore, we're hoping that this makes it out to the widest audience as possible. Right, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to stop recording. And